Welcome back to another episode of Meredith with a Y. I am your host, Meredith Willits, and this is my 179th podcast recording. That's over 3 years of podcasts. And if you want some stats, I am in the top 1.5% of all podcasts in the world, which might not sound like a crazy number, but to me it is, and I am super excited to be back at it. I took a couple of months off dealing with some fears and some frustrations and some sabotaging mindsets, but I am back, so I hope you stay with me. Hello, everyone. This is Meredith with a Y, and I am your host, Meredith Willits. Today, we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. So hopefully you found me throughout time, either in podcast land or live on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, where you can find me. Here's hoping every Monday in the morning. Just depends. I will be having guests, and I'm going to switch it up just a little bit, kind of going back to my basics of speaking from the heart and kind of what I'm going through in life. So I'll just recap a little bit. I did a couple episodes with my husband, and it was very different because Jim lives in a very different world than I do. He gets a lot of feedback from family and friends. He's very open to it. I am not. I like to kind of live in my bubble, doing my own thing. I don't love a bunch of feedback because I don't want the noise. I don't like a lot of noise from people who don't live inside of, I guess, the parameters that I live my life in. A lot of people are very closed-minded. They like what they like. They like to give a lot of input back. And Jim's really open to that. And it is not my best friend. And so getting feedback by way of him was weird to me. Usually people that listen to me here in podcast world or live, they are used to kind of what I deliver. Also, I had some interesting situations where my podcasts were being forwarded to family members, and those family members were using it, unfortunately, as ammunition to make fun of me and be unkind. And so that really put me in a bad headspace because I don't really like the things that I do, especially from people that sit on the sidelines, being weaponized against me. And that might sound pithy. That is actually a word. Um, but that's just where I was at. And I had to work through those things of getting myself back in front of the camera, back in front of the microphone. And that took a while to work through because my anger would come up, my fear would come up that all of these conversations are going on behind my back as if that should be any of my business from people who sit on the sidelines. And it takes a lot to put yourself out there. If any of you have ever put yourself out there, be it in dance, on social media, acting, or even a job, giving a presentation at school or in college or at work, putting yourself out front isn't easy. It takes a lot of courage to work past those fears. And although I've been in front of the camera for many years now, although I put myself in front of a lot of people on social media, I have over 1 million followers on social media, and that comes with backlash and ridicule and judgment. It hit different when it was a family member. And so that really messed with my head and made me feel and ask myself all sorts of questions like, am I fake? Am I being too much? All the things I tell my clients and all of you not to listen to. And here I was listening to those very things. But as we have learned from being children and growing into adults, the people that are closest to you are here to push you the most. They're the ones that are going to challenge you beyond recognition. They're going to mold you and push you and pull you and judge you and ridicule you so that you can decide, do I want to listen to them? Do I want to listen to people who don't hold my beliefs, who don't hold my ideals, who don't do the things that I do. And then that makes me stop doing what I love. And so I titled today's program Screw Fear, because yesterday I was in such a wild place. And it was right before I decided to get back on my podcast. It was the breakdown before the breakthrough. And what you're witnessing right this second is the aftermath of that. And that is saying, screw fear. I am not going to live wondering if my aunt is going to send this to my family member so that they can gang up on me, because they are living in the sidelines. These are people I haven't spoken to in over a decade, and I'm letting them judge me, hold me back, make me afraid. There's so many things we need to look at when it comes to fear, because it's actually keeping you from your entire life. When you break through a fear, you are breaking into freedom. It was so funny and so on point that yesterday I was dealing with all of these fears, and I watched one video yesterday and one video this morning, both before this recording. And the first one that came up was a woman talking about a study that was done about people that either try to or do or parasuicide. And what they were talking about is the story, the fears that people will create in their brain are so amazing that the possibility of what they see in their head is so much scarier than death that they will actually take their life. And this is so this resonates with me so much, because so often we are so frozen by fear that anything that we can imagine, any part of that future reality, is so scary and so overwhelming. It can lead to heart palpitations, shortness of breath, dizziness, being frozen, going back to bed, anxiety, depression. And so anything but those things that we create is way, way worse than just checking out for the last time. And in my opinion, as I sit here, not living your truth, not being authentic, not doing your thing is a, a part, is a slice of death. Because you came here to do so many things, so many beautiful and amazing things, to change lives, to influence, to inspire, to steer, to experience. And you can't do that if you're living in fear all the time, listening to other people who have no business telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing, listening to people that will never get in front of a microphone, who will never put themselves in front of a camera, who will never put themselves out there, who live inside of the closure of their four walls and judge and intimidate. And there's so many people from my past that live in that experience, and then sit there and throw stones at an experience, at a life that they don't even understand, which is probably why they're judging it, because it's so outside of their reality. I have spent the past 52 years living in fear of being my authentic self. Think of that. Think of living in such fear that you're afraid to truly be who you are. That's wild. And it's a waste of time. It's a waste of life. And I would rather figure this out today at 52 years old and get back in front of the microphone and speak my truth, and not protect people who refuse to protect me, even though they've known me my entire life. And I don't want to live that way. Maybe you yourself are going through such a thing. Maybe your parents or your family or your friends are saying, don't do that. Don't be an actress. Don't be an athlete. Don't be an artist. Don't be a this. Don't be a that. Don't start a podcast. Don't be an influencer. Don't share yourself on socials. That's stupid. That's weird. You're going to fail. No one will follow you. No one cares what you have to say. But I'm here to tell you that the messages that I receive by way of email and messenger and DMs tell me something else. They tell me to keep going, that I am making a difference. You see, when you run up against a fear, it's a block, it's an energy, it's programming, it's socialization. It comes from the first years of life where you were told how to behave in society to be acceptable. And for us women, it's don't be too much, don't be too loud. And I say, screw all of it. I say, be too much, be too loud, be everything. Be everything that you can possibly be, because that's what you came here to be. For the love of God, Jesus walked on water. He was the epitome of too much. He was exactly too much. Conservatives will tell you, don't be too much. Sit there quietly and color, little girl. And I say, not today, Satan. Not today. You're not going to put me in a box today where you live. But I was keeping myself in the box because they, the judgers, the influencers in my life that told me to be afraid of my own words, that I was silly and ridiculous, those people struck a nerve that lived inside of me already. If it didn't live inside of me, they couldn't have pushed it. If I am wearing a blue outfit, this was from Bashar this morning. If I were wearing a blue outfit and someone came up to me and said, your orange outfit is ridiculous and I hate it, I would look at them and, what? Okay, this has nothing to do with me, and move on. I wasn't wearing that color. What are you talking about? I'm wearing orange. What you're saying has nothing to do with me. But when someone says something that strikes a nerve, that means you believe it somewhere. That means you've heard it somewhere, sometime, and you're holding on to it. And they are pushing a button that you are ready to listen to and decide, am I in alignment with that belief anymore? Do I hold this person at a value that they are allowed to and their judgment means something? Would I trade places with them? Would I take advice from them? Are they living a life of my dreams? And all the answers to those are a resounding no. Not at all. No, thank you. When a fear comes up, that means it's a belief. It's a belief that already lives inside of you. You've been programmed. You've been conditioned. You've been socialized. And so these things live inside of us. And when someone pushes those buttons and says, there's a fear in you and you're ready to move past it, let's try this again, because everyone outside of you is a catalyst for change. Oh, God, that's good. Everyone outside of you is a catalyst for change within you. Sometimes they're inspirational. Sometimes they're button pushers. Sometimes they're here to say, not that direction. Oh, there's someone on TV that's addicted to crystal meth. Not something I want as part of my life. Thanks for the visual. And sometimes it's someone that's inspirational and you see them and you go, ooh, I like that. That's interesting. One of the places that I like to push buttons and push myself is through things like fashion or hairstyles or visual things. I like to be a little edgier. My nose is pierced. I have tattoos. Those things allow me to kind of secretly, quietly, but still out loud be myself. Another thing is expressing myself on social media or here on the podcast. But there's still so many things that I am afraid of or have been that I'm working through. One of which is turning people off, turning people away, having people not like me. But having everyone like you means that you are just being beige. You are not standing up for anything. You're not standing up for your beliefs. You're not standing up for your truths. You're just being likable. And there's nothing wrong with being likable as long as that is in alignment with who you truly are. Maybe you are beige, and that's okay. I had someone just before going live this morning send a message to me on Facebook, which, by the way, is one of the wildest places ever. The amount of bots on Facebook right now is chilling. Do not argue with people who you will never meet and you most likely will never influence. But I digress. I had someone message me this morning right before going on, and it says, Meredith, are you a liberal? Now, what do you think that person meant by sending that message? She wanted to find out if I was likable, regardless of the fact that she's probably been following me for years, but is just now maybe seeing hints of that type of ideology. And my fear is responding yes or no and becoming unlikable. My fear was coming back on the podcast and being unlikable. My fear was that this family member would send my stuff out to people who already don't like me, and then they would attack me again. But the fact of the matter is they already don't like me. They don't like what I stand for, and that's okay. Not to compare myself to Jesus, but to give you a wonderful example, they put him on a cross, and now they are changing governments by way of Jesus's name. And they killed him. He was unlikable. He was opinionated. He was divisive. He was political. And they killed him. And now they worship him. Not in his name, of course. They don't follow his teachings. And so the thing of it is, guys, the worst they can do is not like you. The most thing they can do is kill you. But you'll be in good company. And it's not very likely. But at least you'll stand for something instead of falling for everything. I'm sick of living in fear. I'm sick of not speaking my truth. I finally told my husband 2 nights ago that my condition from menopause is so debilitating, and it seeps into every part of my day and makes me so physically uncomfortable. I have a doctor's appointment today. That it's absolutely horrific. And I haven't shared that with him, and it's been going on now for probably another year. And I'm not on any medications for my breast cancer anymore, so it's not that. But the hot flashes that I've been experiencing, they start with, it seems to be the hypothalamus gets dysregulated and causes this drop in hormones that creates a feeling of dread. And this feeling of dread is so profound, which is then followed by nausea, which is then followed by the hot flash. And if people don't understand what a hot flash is, your temperature can go up to 101, 102 degrees within a matter of moments. So imagine feeling great and then having a fever of 102 degrees within a matter of minutes and having to sit with that all day long, on and off sporadically, all day long. And it seems to be caused by irritation. Like if I get irritated or scared or annoyed, it could be like getting a bill in the mail. Like when I say, irritated, it could be like, oh God, I got a bill in the mail. It could be something that small that triggers the hypothalamus. But the long and the short of it is I have held this inside of myself. I just thought I could get through it. And I finally shared with my husband how bad this has been and how much I've been struggling for the past few months, maybe as long as a year, I don't even know. And how it's ruining my mental health. Because to feel dread, and when I say dread, I mean like you don't want to be here anymore. You don't want to be on this planet for like seconds. But it seeps into like longer moments. I don't know how to describe it because it happens all day, that it just kind of puts a damper on the entire day because the way that it comes in and it stays and then it comes back and then it stays and then it comes back. And so it's kind of like a dark cloud kind of over the day, and then you feel better and then here it comes again. It's very bizarre. It's hard to explain, but when it happens over and over and over again. Anyways, I've been afraid to share this with my husband because I don't want him to think like it's ridiculous to think that's something that causes you to be hot. But it's not just that, it's that feeling of dread that's the worst part. And I mean, the hot flash is annoying and it's uncomfortable, but I've been afraid to tell him is my point. I didn't want him to think that like I couldn't deal with it or that something was wrong with me that I couldn't handle by myself. And I shared it with him and he was really great about it, of course. He's Jim. And I'm going to see, like I said, a doctor today, not sure what they can do. But I told him, I said, it sounds crazy, but if they say I can get on hormones or something to help me with this, honestly, if it fixed my life and I got cancer again, it almost would be worth it. It's that debilitating. And I said those words out loud. And it was so scary, but it was my truth. I don't know if it is my truth, but it was in that moment. And it has been for a while that I just want to feel better. And something about just being able to say it made it better. I think so often we live with these conversations in our mind. We live with feelings inside of our bodies that comes from being strong or being a lot or being weak or being vulnerable. And all of the buildup in our mind is way scarier than actually saying it out loud. Sometimes we just have to articulate it. Sometimes we just have to work through it. And that will make us feel better. For the past few months that I haven't been on the podcast, a lot of my fear was the what if. What if they make fun of me again? What if they think that I'm stupid or fake? And as I worked through that anger of my own family, as I worked through the disappointment of someone knowing you your entire life and judging you, and that grief, as I was getting dressed this morning, I thought to myself, how'd we get here as a family? We used to be so close. And after my grandmother died, everything fell apart. And I know a lot of people that go through this where the patriarch or the matriarch dies and everything falls apart. And that's what's happened to my extended family. And it's so sad. But there's nothing I can do about it. I used to love seeing all of my aunts and cousins and uncles. It used to be one of my favorite things was holidays. And after my grandmother died, everything fell apart. Everyone went off in their different ways with judgments and feelings of hurt and anger. And I was allowing all of that to keep me from what I love because of they wanted to live inside of that and spread that into me. They wanted that to seep onto myself and make me small, just like all of that hate and anger has made them small and sick and separate. And I don't want to live that way. And I hope you don't either. And so if you're living an experience where there's things that you want to do, where there's dreams that you have, and you've got that voice of a family member or a friend or a teacher or a religious person or a neighbor that says, why are you going to do that? That's ridiculous. You're not good enough to be an actress or a singer or an athlete or an artist or a lawyer or a doctor. You don't have what it takes. Do not let that live inside of your head. That is poison. That is poison. And it's an agreement that you have willingly, although subconsciously, this was me, willingly, yet subconsciously entered into an agreement with. If you haven't read the 4 agreements, go read it. Because basically your entire childhood is made up of agreements that you have entered into consciously and subconsciously, willingly and unwillingly. Girls who wear short skirts are trash. Boys who don't open the door are unworthy of you to date. Whatever. Those are agreements that you are deciding to enter into or deciding to not. It's up to you. But those are agreements. Every single day you enter into agreements, knowingly or unknowingly. And I entered into an agreement when I stopped doing my podcast a few months ago. And then yesterday actually, I said, I don't want to be in agreement. I'm not in alignment with those things. And I left that agreement. What agreements, willingly, knowingly, or unknowingly, unwillingly, are you in with someone else, with society? Dogs or cats, city or, country. There's all sorts of things that we enter into agreement with. And that becomes the judge and jury that lives inside of your head. It becomes the judge. You might think you look beautiful, walk downstairs, and your mother says, that outfit is not flattering. At that moment, for the rest of the night, starting with the fact of you letting it bounce off of you and saying, this is a her problem. I have no idea what she's talking about, meaning I'm not entering into that agreement. Or you do enter into it and you go change. Or you do enter that agreement and you go to the party and you feel uncomfortable all night with that voice in your head. This is what an agreement sounds and feels like. This is how an agreement plays out. You're not smart enough to go to law school. And it sits inside of your brain like a fungus, like a bacteria, like a virus, like an amoeba, eating at you, eating at your excitement, eating at your dreams, and killing you slowly until you quit. Or you say, that has nothing to do with me. That's a them problem. I decided when I was going to talk about this today that all of it is a them problem. I decided yesterday when I put up the fact that I was going to do this podcast and started advertising it, that from here on out, everything is going to be a them problem. Because I don't want their problems, their smallness, their judgment, their backpack of bricks that their father and their mothers and their society and their friends and their teachers gave to them. They will not be handing that to me. And I let them until yesterday. Are you allowing someone else's backpack of bullshit? Are you letting them hand that to you, which is keeping you from your life and your dreams? I'm going to bet 100% the answer to that somewhere in your life is yes. And I'm going to ask the universe, if you so agree, to let the universe, to let your higher self, to let God, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to ask that to be shown to you so that you can see where you've fallen into alignment and out of your path. Because when that happens, when you fall out of your own alignment, you're off course. You're off the reason that you're here, which is to express and be you. Period. End of story. Nothing else. There's nothing else that is asked of you except for to be you. And so the last few months have been a version of a dark night of the soul. When you go down deep and say, is this what I want? Is this where I want to be? Is this the life that I want to live? Small and scared and afraid of judgment from people who will never get off the sidelines. So many people wag their fingers and what do they say in the Bible? Gnash their teeth. Is that the words? But never do anything but judge. They never make the difference. They never live their lives wholly and truly. And I don't want to be anything like them. And I hope you don't either. This is a wild time that we're living in. We are more divided than we have ever been, that I can ever imagine. Maybe the Gilded Age, right? Which they want to go back to, where people were profoundly poor or profoundly rich. It's an interesting time. I don't choose to fight with anyone. And I made a video the other day, most of which my videos are on TikTok. It's a very different atmosphere over there. But when you want to fight with someone on social media, instead of doing that, call your congressperson. When you get behind the keyboard and you want to start fighting with someone you will never meet and 100% not change the mind of, I promise you, and instead all you're doing is creating a fire and an anger inside of you that will live with you for days. It will extend to your children, to your friends, to the cashier at the grocery store, your spouse. It will extend to your pets. It will make you sick. Instead of fighting with someone on social media, I ask you, I don't care what side of the aisle you are on, call your representative. Get the phone number. Oh, I want to fight with someone. Get the phone number and call them. Have them on speed dial. Leave a message. Wait on hold. Leave a message. But stop fighting with each other. It's pointless. It makes you small. It takes your energy. It is killing you. It's going to give you an aneurysm and a heart attack. Every time you go to fight with someone on social media, especially the bots that are from a blind account that is not a real person, that is probably coming from Russia or somewhere, that says, oh, this and oh, that, just to incite anger and violence inside of Americans. Call your senator, call your House of Representatives, call your person, call your rep. Don't fight with people. We are more divided than ever, and we are getting sicker and sicker. I promise you, it will do you no good. Enjoy your day today. So many people have off. Don't fight with people on social. Don't fight with your friends and family. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They want us to hate each other. They want us divided. I don't care who it is. And don't say, yeah, just this person wants us to hate each other. I don't care. Don't do it. Be good to yourselves. Allow your fears to come up. Ask yourself where you learned that fear. Ask yourself if it's real. Ask yourself if this was learned and now it's coming up and now you can deal with it. Screw fear. Your fears are the blocks, are the walls to your freedom. I had to do this podcast to get to the next one, but I had to work through my fears of being judged, of being hated or ridiculed, of being made fun of. And all of that was living in my head because none of it can really hurt me. If you're not already following me on social media, I'm here on Facebook. I'm over on Instagram, which is usually the same content. You can find me on TikTok at Meredith with a Y, Meredith with a Y podcast. Again, top 1.5% of all podcasts worldwide. Very proud of that. And I will be back weekly with some interviews, with some exciting guests coming up. Might have Jim back on. Just going to tell him not to tell me what anyone says because I just don't care. And good, bad, or ugly, I'll be honest with you. I don't really even care if someone tells me I'm doing a good job because then I'm like, oh, I have to keep doing that content. I just kind of want to live in a vacuum. And if people resonate with what I have to say, great. If they don't, that's okay too. But I hope that you guys all have a beautiful week, paying attention to your fears. Stop fighting with people on social media. Stop fighting with your friends and family about politics. It is absolutely 100% a waste of your time, effort, and energy. All it does is create anger and sickness and illness in your body and seep out into everything that you do. So stay out of it. When you want to fight with someone, call your representative. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you here next time. Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredithwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredith with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredith with a Y. Thanks again for listening.